This is a special discussion we want to have because the Bank of Ghana is in almost the final stages of putting together a framework for non-interest banking here in Ghana. What does that mean? It means that Ghana is from 2026, hopefully, or something like that, is going to enter into non-interest banking, which means that we are going to be employing Islamic financing. So on the masterclass discussion today, we want to go through a number of things. Number one, what is Islamic finance, non-interest banking about? Number two, we're going to be discussing the various principles underlining this banking system. Number three, we're going to look at some of the issues in respect of the various instruments available that can be used under Islamic financing. And then the fourth thing will be, as accountants, financial, how do we represent this in accordance with the IFRSs in the financial statement? These are important issues because having the understanding of these will position us to be able to really apply and understand what this key change is about. Remember also that our registration is currently ongoing for the March 2026 examination. So if you are looking at registering to start studying ahead of the March 2026 ICAG examination, you can send us a message on WhatsApp or visit our website nhyirapremium.com, and then you'll be assisted to be able to complete your registration so you can start studying for the examination. So let's get straight up into the discussion. What is Islamic finance? What are the principles underlying Islamic finance? Why is the Bank of Ghana going into this arena this time around? What are the things we are supposed to know and various things that we need to be getting excited about? So let me bring up my screen quickly and let's go into the discussion. So Islamic finance. Let's start basically with some background, some understanding and various things, some key principles here. Now, the Islamic finance system is simply a system where banks, financial intermediaries, will provide finances, but using what we call the Sharia or the Islamic law. And the whole thing is to promote ethical investing, fairness, and social welfare, fundamentally different from the conventional financing. So the goal here is, how do we promote ethical investment? How do we bring in some fairness? Because we're going to be talking about the differences between the traditional or conventional financing, like you are looking for money, you go to the bank for a loan, what the bank does, and then under the Islamic financing, how it's supposed to be done. We're going to be talking about that basically. But the idea is that currently, if you are looking for money and you want a loan, what do? You go to the bank. And the bank is going to ask for audited financial statements, collateral facilities, and all that. And the bank gives you the money. Now, irrespective of what happens, at the end of the day, the bank is going to be requiring you to pay X amount of interest, sometimes very significant amount of interest, and they will demand whether you lose or you gain to pay the money back. And so it makes traditional financing or conventional financing quite challenging, unattractive, and it is not all businesses that will leverage it or that will be able to use it. But Islamic finance is coming in to bridge the gap. Now, if you're somebody who is doing financial management, this is a fundamental area, because in financial management, that is ICAG financial management or ACCA financial management, when you talk about sources of finance to an organization, Islamic finance is there. If you are doing strategic case study also, you must understand this. So in addition to having the understanding of these things and how they apply to in the preparation of financial statements for corporate reporting students, financial reporting students, the IFRS part, financial management students, and strategic case study, these are also going to be valuable things that you must understand. So let's begin the journey with the core principles. Number one is the prohibition of interest, which is riba. In the conventional or traditional finance environment, the bank gives you money and charge interest on it. But in Islamic finance, interest is forbidden. And so that is the idea here. So charging or receiving any predetermined or guaranteed interest on loan is forbidden. That's the thing. Okay, so if interest is forbidden and I give you money under Islamic finance, how do I get my money back? Simple. Profit must be generated from real economic activity. And that could be trade, it could be investment or service, but not just lending money. So the rule about Islamic finance is that, or the Sharia law is that, hey, I cannot just sit down doing nothing. Then I say, oh, I have money. Then I said, okay, let me give that money to you, Titi. Then you take that money and I sit down. I don't do anything. Then you go use the money to work. Then you give me interest. That is the traditional banking. But in the Islamic finance environment, that ideology is forbidden. Riba is prohibited in Islamic financing. 2, prohibition of excessive uncertainty. Gara. Transactions involving excessive ambiguity, uncertainty, or contractual vagueness are forbidden. This rules out conventional derivatives and what? Short selling. So anything that involves a lot of uncertainty, Islamic financing say, hey, listen, let's not get into it. Because in the traditional financing, you can still get the money and use various derivative instruments to try to hedge against it so that the worst of the worst outcome does not happen. And if sometimes the stakes are very high, but people will still go for it. In Islamic financing, we want to be as reasonable as possible. Yes, there could be some uncertainty, but it shouldn't be excessive. That's the second principle we must understand when we talk about Islamic financing. The third one is prohibition of gambling. May say, earning money purely from chance or speculation activity is forbidden in Islamic financing. And this is in the Islamic law, right? It's in Islam that you are forbidden from engaging in any speculative gambling activities. So if you remember earlier this year also, the president, I think the President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama, appointed Mr. Mohammed Abdul Salam, who is a Muslim, to head the National Lottery Authority. And you saw the backlash. If you follow the news, people were like, oh, you are a Muslim. This is forbidden in our religion. You cannot go and head National Lottery Authority because this is speculative. This is forbidden. This is may say. You cannot do this. But the guy was like, hey, I've been appointed. I'm going to execute my mandate, right? Then there was a time also, there was one gentleman who won a bet who happened to be a Muslim. And so people were then questioning, but we thought in Muslim, you are not supposed to be gambling. You are not supposed to be involved in any of these things. How are you involved in these to the extent that you have even won significant amount of money? So that is the third principle in Islam, in the Sharia law, prohibition of gambling or speculation. What does that mean? It means you cannot go enter any Islamic finance transaction and go and use it for gambling or speculative activities. It's not possible. It's against the law. It's forbidden. Now, so what does this mean in principle? Does it mean that if the Islamic finance is brought in Ghana, let's say these betting companies, maybe they want to buy some new equipment, monitors and those things that they use at their center, or TVs or something, or maybe they are going to rent a place. Can't they use the Islamic finance available? I think they could, because I don't think we're going to be going strict with the laws or with the principles. Okay, there may be some overlaps at the end of the day because we are not, or Ghana is not a Muslim-dominated country like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and co. Because that is where you will see these things or these laws really being forbidden, and people or businesses abide by them. So I think the law will be a little, or the framework will be a little flexible here in Ghana, and all businesses, as far as it's a tool that is available, they may be able to engage in it. Then the last one is, or the next principle is ethical investment. Ethical investment. So investing in businesses dealing with prohibited, or investment in businesses dealing with prohibited or haram activity. So you want to do only ethical investments. In other words, you cannot engage, like we said earlier, alcohol, pork, gambling, pornography. All of these things are haram in Islam because it is regarded as unethical behavior. So you cannot be like Pornhub, or you cannot be like an alcoholic company. Why? Because those things are regarded as the highest form of sin, so they are not ethical, and so they are prohibited. So ethical investment alone, we don't want any unethical thing. Risk sharing. One principle in Islamic financing is that, hey, the risks associated with whatever we are doing, because remember, the core thing here is we are undertaking an economic activity. So the risks will be shared. If there is any loss, both the provider of the finance and the partner who executed the job will share the risk. It depends on the way the risks will be shared. But unlike traditional banking, where you go take money from the bank to do business, and the business takes a nosedive, you lose everything, the bank doesn't care, because the bank will still demand you repay the loan plus the interest. That is the traditional financing. But under Islamic financing, we're going to be sharing the risk. So if the business goes south, the bank is also going to be bearing some risk. Not only the entity executing the contract, that will be bearing the entire risk. Then the last principle is asset backing. This is a real asset transaction. What does that mean? It means all financial transactions must be tied to tangible assets or legitimate trade or service activities. In other words, money is treated as a medium of exchange, not a commodity to be sold for profit. Again, in traditional banking, what do we see? You need a loan, you go to the bank, and the bank says, hey, I'm giving you X amount of money. So the bank is trading the money for profit. In Islam, under the Islamic finance, in the Sharia law, you can't trade money for profit, because money is a medium of exchange, not a commodity you can sell. So in Islamic financing, all the transactions, everything will be tied to an asset. So it is the profit from that asset, it is the income from that asset that the parties, both the provider of the finance and the one executing the contract, will benefit from. That is the idea about Islamic finance. And these are the core principles we must understand when we talk about Islamic financing. Number one, interest is forbidden, riba. You cannot charge interest. Number two, prohibition of excessive uncertainty, gara, forbidden. 3, prohibition of gambling and speculative activities, not allowable, mesa. Ethical investment, we only going to be investing in things that are socially or ethically beneficial. Pornography is not socially or ethically beneficial. And then other form of investments, pork, and those things not socially and ethically beneficial. Then the principle of risk sharing and the principle of asset backing. So these are the core principles we must understand when we talk about Islamic financing.